Professional source to start us off tonight is Massachusetts Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, and it's great to have you here, Senator, because obviously voting has been going on for nearly 12 hours now on Capitol Hill where you are. How much longer do you expect this to go tonight?
You know, it's all in the hands of the Republicans. Have they cut a deal? Because right now, it's not just the number of votes. Democrats have got plenty of amendments. The Republicans are stretching them out. So every vote, instead of being 10-minute votes or 15-minute votes like we often do in Vote-a-ramas, the vote on Planned Parenthood ran for an hour, that they kept it open. And we all presume that's because they're all behind closed doors trying to figure out how they get the votes to get this thing through.
So you think that they're also helping stretch this out because they don't have the votes for a final passage right now?
Well, why else would they be stretching it out? If they actually have their votes, why wouldn't they be on the floor right now, rushing us through our amendments and then going to the vote? Look, the bottom line stays the same. When you read the bill, and the Democrats insisted that the bill be read aloud, it's nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. And that means little tiny babies who run up $1 million worth of medical bills in their first month of life. That's cuts that actually are there right now, that Medicaid program, to help them. Your neighbor who got in a car accident and now needs a wheelchair and a home health aide, cuts to Medicaid will affect your neighbor. And the latest projection is we know that half of the people who are in nursing homes are counting on Medicaid to actually pay the bills, so that what we're talking about here is real people, millions of people who are going to be hurt by this, and ultimately everybody in this country. Best estimate is about 350 hospitals will actually close because they can't manage uncompensated care when people come through the door and they don't have Medicaid and they don't have any money. 1 out of 4 nursing homes is estimated to close because those seniors, people with Alzheimer's, people who need care and don't have any money to cover it, what's going to happen to those folks, and what's going to happen to the nursing homes that right now are already running on tiny little profit margins? So the impact is going to be on, the estimate is about 17 million people directly who lose care. But it's going to hit everybody in this country. When those hospitals close, they close for everyone. When those nursing homes close, they close for everyone.
Well, and I know they're trying to add an amendment to shore up support because some Republicans are concerned about just that. But I wonder what went through your mind when you listened to Republican Senator Tillis's speech yesterday, where he was saying that he's worried some 600,000 people in his state of North Carolina would lose their insurance. He said he believed the president was being misinformed. Is that what you believe is happening here?
Look, I don't know why the disconnect is there, but you showed us the evidence. President Trump said over and over and over and over and recently that he is not going to cut Medicaid. And this bill cuts Medicaid, and it doesn't cut it a little bit. This bill cuts Medicaid literally for about 17 million Americans and takes $1 trillion out of our healthcare system. And our hospitals, our nursing homes are telling us they just can't survive if you pull that money out. And all of this is just so that the Republicans can do a tax giveaway to a handful of billionaires and billionaire corporations. I think that Senator Tillis is exactly right. He said, you gotta honor your promise here, and your promise is not to cut Medicaid. Democrats have offered amendment after amendment today to try to protect Medicaid. Lisa Blunt Rochester offered an amendment that just said, I tell you what, don't cut Medicaid for brand new mamas and their babies. Republicans voted it down across the board. Over and over, Republicans have said when confronted directly with the amendments that they're willing to vote to cut Medicaid. The president needs to hear that and call this bill back in to say this bill should not pass.
Can I ask you about what the other side is saying, which is that if Democrats don't vote for this, that you're going to pay the political consequences because you're voting it wouldn't be extending the tax cuts that the president enacted last time he was in office, and therefore there would be a tax increase for Americans. The nonpartisan tax policy center said that if it would mean 64% of households would get some sort of tax increase should this bill not pass to do so. What is your response to that?
Look, nobody in America except the billionaires want to see the tax cuts for the billionaires and the billionaire corporations. And that's all the Democrats are saying. Democrats are saying, fine, you want to cut taxes for middle class families? Man, we are all in. You want to find ways to cut taxes for small businesses? Count us in. But you want to do trillions of dollars of giveaways that go to billionaires and billionaire corporations. Why? So Jeff Bezos can throw a second $50 million wedding? No, we don't want any part of that. And here's the deal. Democrats don't want any part of that, and neither do the American people. Democrats, independents, and Republicans are opposed to these tax giveaways for billionaires and billionaire corporations. Republicans are the ones who are going to pay a price for that come November 2026.
Have Democrats done enough, in your view, to talk about what's in this bill? I mean, when you look at the polling, it's underwater with voters, even in a Fox News poll. But do you think that your party has done enough to tell people what is in here and what this is going to do to them?
So do remember, what was in the bill kept sliding around, so it made it pretty hard to talk about it. But here's the deal. Once people hear about what's in the bill, they don't like it. The polling just consistently shows the more people who hear about the bill, the more underwater it is. And understand this, if the Republicans manage to pass this ugly mess, Americans are going to hear about it. We're trying to make sure everybody hears about it before the vote, but we're going to make sure that everybody hears about every Republican who voted to take away health care from millions of Americans so that billionaires could get tax handouts, and they voted to run up the national deficit by another $3.5 trillion. You better believe by November 2026, we're going to make sure everybody in America's heard about that.
If the bill's that unpopular, why do you think it will ultimately pass still? And what does that say if it does?
You'd have to ask a Republican whether or not it's going to pass, because I have to say, one of the things that we put out is a chart that shows how many people are going to lose their health care state by state by state. And you heard Senator Tillis quoting that last night when he was saying, what am I going to say to 600,000 people in North Carolina that he was elected to represent? It's clear that in every state, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are going to lose access to health care in every state. Nursing homes that will close and hospitals that will close. How a Republican or a Democrat or an independent could vote for that is beyond belief. All I can figure out is the Republicans are truly spineless, and if Donald Trump has told them to vote for it, then by golly, the only thing they seem to be able to do is bow low to Donald Trump and do whatever he says. But there is no way that they vote for that because they think it is good for the people who elected them.
We're watching the Senate floor right now. We don't have any idea of when this is going to end or when a final vote could happen. I want you to listen, though, to what your colleague, your Democratic colleague, John Fetterman, had to say about this Vote-a-rama process, as it's known.
Oh my God! I just want to go home. I've already I've missed our entire trip to the beach. My family's going to be back before we that. So and again, I'm going to vote no. There's no drama. The votes are going to go. In fact, the only interesting votes are going to be on the margin, whether that's Collins or Johnson and those. But all the Democrats, we all know how that's going to go. And I don't think it's really helpful to put people here till some ungodly hour.
What's your reaction to that, Senator?
Look, we're going to stay, and we're going to stay, and we're going to keep voting as long as the Republicans keep this vote open on this bill. And That's what we all will do. All 47 Democrats are entirely committed to stay because we're going to be here to vote to protect the people who will be losing their health care and to vote against big giveaways to billionaires and billionaire corporations and to vote against raising the national debt just so that Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg can suck down more tax giveaways. We're going to do that vote forever and as long as it takes.
Did you ever think that you and Elon Musk would find yourself on the same side advocating against a bill?
What can I say? Hell has frozen over a second time. Look, but Elon Musk is right about this. He's got it exactly right. The idea of borrowing $3.5 trillion on the nation's credit card in order to be able to give tax breaks to the likes of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg is financially nuts. It's terrible for our country because it's going to drive up the cost of borrowing for all businesses all around the country. It's going to be bad for our economy. And it also means that we're going to be saddling our children and our grandchildren and shoot our grandchildren's children to pay off those debts. No one is clamoring for that except a handful of billionaires who made big contributions to Donald Trump's inauguration and got to settle themselves in the front row. What the American people want to see is those billionaires and billionaire corporations make them pay just their fair share. It is not right that Jeff Bezos pays taxes at a lower rate than a Boston public school teacher. Make those guys pay just a fair share. And for goodness sakes, do not borrow money and run this nation further into debt so that those billionaires get even richer. That makes no damn sense.
Can I ask you before we go, we were in the briefing today and the White House pulled up this handwritten note that the president sent to Fed Chair Jay Powell. I believe we have a picture of it. You can see the president's handwriting on it where he basically says, as usual, he's too late, he needs to cut interest rates. I wonder what you think the Fed chair did when he got this note from the handwritten note from the president telling him he needs to cut interest rates.
You know, basically in his own very polite, very understated way, Jay Powell has already told the President of the United States what's needed in order to get interest rates down. And that is for Donald Trump to stop the chaos that he's injecting into this economy. You know, when Donald Trump says tariffs on, tariffs off, red light, green light, you're going to have 10%, 50% over there, 126% over here, there's no business in this country that can invest under those circumstances. And we saw the latest Fed data showing inflation starting to tick up, unemployment starting to tick up, and GDP growth shrinking. And we just saw today that actual GDP has shrunk in the last quarter. All are bad economic signs, and they are all the results of Donald Trump creating chaos in the economic system. You gotta admit, Joe Biden handed over a good economy to Donald Trump. He's been there 162 days. He's turned it into chaos, and Jay Powell himself said that the reason he didn't lower interest rates back in February was because of the chaos that Trump was creating around tariffs. And he's still saying, until things settle down, he can't bring those interest rates down. There is one human being in the United States who's causing interest rates to stay high, and his name is Donald J. Trump.
And he certainly would disagree with that. We'll see what the Fed chair does. Senator Elizabeth Warren, going to be a long night on Capitol Hill. Thank you for taking some time to come over to the camera and join us.
You bet.